I like using a decorative bowl to make beautiful designs in, but sometimes it's really hard mechanically to create a design in it. So I wanted to show you just a quick and easy way that you can do that. It's using duct tape. So if I take just some generic duct tape, don't spend a lot of money on patterns or anything because we're going to cover it up. But just to line the bottom of the dish with it, that way when you're done with the design, you can pull the foam out because we're going to glue that foam in, and you're able then to have the base nice and clean. You don't have to worry about it being attached to anything, and the glue sticks so that you won't lose the design. So that mechanic is really essential. So you just cover the area that you're going to be gluing to with duct tape. And of course, rules of the glue is that the tape sticks to the container and the glue sticks to the tape. So that's what we want to accomplish. I have a half a brick of wet foam that's going to be just fine in this, but I'm going to take some pan glue and I'm just going to pour some glue into the very bottom of this. And this may not be really hot, but that should be good. It's going to stick, and you just kind of want to line that a little bit with some of that pan glue. And you can use dry foam or you can use wet foam. It doesn't matter. Either one will work without any problem. And I'm just going to take my wet foam and just stick that right down in there. And that will adhere and it won't let go. So it gives it that strength that we need so it won't come up. I've got some really beautiful branches that I like to use. This is a new product from Floral Supply Syndicate that I just love. And it just nests. I've added some eggs to, but it gives us that spring type feel that we like. So I'm just going to add that. Actually, I think I'm going to trim this down just a little bit more so my stem isn't quite so long. And create this free-form design so it gives me that durability and that line movement that I want to create with this. So I'm able just to add this in, just inserting that into the foam. And then adjusting my nest so that works. I'm going to set this up on so I can turn it so you can see it. And then I'm going to add a second one to this. And we add two. We always like to add two, and that's repetition in the design, and that's essential. And I think to me it's very important that you repeat whatever you're doing. The only time that you don't do that is when you're absolutely doing just one of each thing. And of course, balance and all of the textures and all of those things have to be there. But if by repeating it twice, you automatically get that. So it's important that you pay attention to what you're adding. So I'm going to add this branch in here. So we've got this beautiful line movement that I want to continue with. And I've got some fatsia leaves that I want to add. And I love using fatsia just because they're such a beautiful foliage, but they also cover so much. Let me remove that out just a little bit more. And anytime you're using floral foam, you take something out and put it back in, recut it, so that we have absolute absorption through that vascular system of the foliage. So again, if you've noticed, 1 and 1, so there's one on both sides of this. So we're going to continue adding with this. And I've got some foxtail fern and I've got some spring rhyme, and I just want to add just that softness. Again, following the line movements that we create with this. That one's really curly, but I think we're going to get it to work. How about if we go like this? There we go. And then another one. Of course, we're going to go the opposite side and bringing that in. And the color in the eggs, if you noticed, are a little bit of that blue tone that we have in the container itself. So we're pulling that color down. And then the greens from the spring rye and the foxtail fern gives us that beautiful motion that we want. Again, always remember, just go side by side. And I'm inserting through the fatsia leaf just so that I can now have most of my foam is already covered. I don't have to worry about coming back and filling that in. I do have to do it a little bit. And I have some pittosporum that I'm going to use some pieces. Let's go back here with you. And just break it apart and come back. And make sure that my foam isn't showing anywhere, because we're going to come back with some nice spring flowers to add to that. so we can see our line movement. So our line movement still, that free form that we want to do still has to have construction. It still has to be in that line movement that you want to create. You still have to have form, you still have to have balance, you have to have all these things that apply to that. So make sure that you follow that. All right, we're going to come back with some tulips. And tulips, as I have talked before, tulips are one of those flowers that you have to let do what tulips like to do, because they're tropic and they're going to grow towards the light no matter what you do to them. So you can't prevent that, so embrace it. So let them do that. So I'm just going to come back and just kind of create a little bit of a line movement with them, coming through from one side to the other, so we can see that. And let them have that ability. Well, I find it just fascinating that how this design is going to change tomorrow because of the growth of the tulips and where you have them setting and what they do. To me, it's just amazing on what nature really does. So you can see what that does is that line movement is enhanced. And we're going to come back and just keep going with it. Just keep making that happen with these beautiful tulips. And of course, this time of year, they are just beautiful. And they're going to open up and give us that beautiful spring textures that we want. All right. So now what we see, we want to come back and now create a little bit of depth, so coming in. So I have a few carnations that I want to pull that color down into that very center. So I'm going to use those little miniatures all the way down to that very base and just add some detail. And I'm putting them in a grouping, and what that grouping does, it concentrates the color. And that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that my eye draws down to my focal area. And my focal area in this particular design is very much the intersection of the line movements. So we want to bring our eye down. And the importance of that, as you can see, it's like boom. Your eye goes right down to that very center. And that's the important part of that. You want to see that. But again, I also want to bring it to the opposite side. So that I'm looking at this side of it, I want to see that color impact. Now it doesn't, sorry, I dropped my carnation. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same product, but as long as it's got the same color impact, and that's what it is. Our eye is drawn to color. Color is an amazing powerhouse when it comes to floral design, because it draws your eye in and you make it travel through the design with color. And then the secondary elements of your design come in, the textures and the line movements and all those different things affect all of that. Now I also have a little bit of wax flower, but I want to just enhance the line movement that I have. So I'm just going to kind of add this to it. And just work a little bit more texture. With the textures of the spring rye and the textures of the nests and the textures of the tulips, you notice the tulips are just that flat, sleek, and then you got the fluffy from the foxtail fern and that rough surface that you have from the nests. It really brings in your eye appeal, and that's what you want to be able to do, is to look at the design and visualize, I know what that surface quality feels like without even touching it. That's the importance in having textural balance in your design. All right, so I'm going to come back here. You can see there. It gives us a nice line movement. Add some more wax flower to this. And of course, all of my bases are covered. I can't see any foam. And yet I've got a beautiful line movement that goes from a little slight curvilinear that brings it down and follows it through. Now I'm going to do one more thing, is I've got just a touch of yellow. And these are the golden button palms that I am just going to tuck right down into this very center, and that's going to really enhance my focal area, and to be able to see that color impact brings your eye definitely down into that very center. And what that does then, it really gives us that powerhouse of color impact and bringing it down, and it gives us more depth just by adding that one stem really pulls our eye in. Oh, of course, I want to color balance that out to the opposite side, so I'm going to bring another stem in. But with 2 stems of those button palms, you can really enhance that center of the design. So looking at how our mechanic worked on this is just really kind of fun to me. So we have our line movements created. We emphasized our line movements that we created with the nest just by adding the foxtail fern and the spring right to that. So it gives us that emphasis, enhancing it with the tulips. Our mechanic is stable because we use that glue and that duct tape right in the very center. And again, a beautiful spring centerpiece done in a beautiful dish that becomes that keepsake. That's what we want, be able to use it again, and we can do that because that mechanic is removable in the center. So again, enjoy spring, have fun with it, make your own designs, but use some nice containers and sell those. So thank you for joining me. See you later.